Okay.
Work?
There you are. All right, everybody, it is 9 o'clock. We're going to get started. So today's workshop is giving it your all to Google with Heather Taylor. Just so you guys are aware, we will have the chat and Q&A, so you'll be able to type questions. If it's a large group, I usually don't do raising your hand, so we'll see how that goes. Yes, I will be sending this presentation and slides of the webinar later today or tomorrow. You will receive an email with the video as well as the presentation. So with that, Heather, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, take it away.
All righty. Well, thanks so much to everyone who's here. Thank you to Laura, who is always awesome to organize these events, make sure that we get all of the questions answered, and just help things keep moving quickly. And I appreciate that. If you have not engaged with SCORE yet, if this is your first experience with SCORE, make sure that you take a deeper dive and see all of the awesome services that they have available to you as a business owner. And I'm telling you this as a business owner, it's phenomenal. Make sure you look into getting your own mentor, look into other webinars and live events, things like that. The price is right. And I promise you, it will do nothing but help you grow your business. So I always love to give a shout out to SCORE before we get started on any of our webinars. Also, Laura helps me watch the chat rooms because when I'm in my big screen, I can't see the questions, and she'll let me know if there's one that pops up. We do try and take those questions as we move through the presentation, just so you don't have to wait until the end. And if you're like me, you've forgotten what you were going to ask. So you can pop those right in the chat or the Q&A, and Laura will make sure we have those. The next caveat that I have, I always give in my webinars, and when we talk about social media in any of my webinars, we're talking about free, not paid. So we're not talking about Google Ads on this presentation. That's its own animal, right? I don't know about you guys, but if it's free, it's for me. So everything that we talk about today, you will be able to do for your business at absolutely no fee monetarily. So we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So just want to kind of set the expectation before we go in, and let's get started. I always like to start my presentations the same way. Talk about what social media is, right? Social media is nothing except for arrows pointing people to your website. We spend lots of time, lots of resources, lots of money on our websites, and the whole secret is to try and get people there so they can make an informed buying decision. And hopefully, if they're going to buy a product or service, they're going to pick ours, right? So all social media is an opportunity for people to take a look at your website. When we're out on the web and someone's doing a search, guess who's there? All of your competitors, right? I know that we all have competitors. We can be in the most niche field in the world, and I promise you, there's at least one other person that does what you do, right? For many of us, it's extremely populated and very, very competitive. But if we can get them to your website, guess who's not there, right? You're going to be the only game in town. So if somebody's on your website and they're ready to make a buying decision, guess whom they're going to buy from? And it's fantastic, right? So let's talk about what social media isn't now that we know what it is. Kind of contradicts what I just said, right? Social media is not free. I promise you, if you're going to stick your toe in or jump all the way into social media, you're going to find out really quickly that you're either going to spend time on doing your social or you're going to spend money. So at the beginning of our businesses, or if we're just starting out, or if we don't really have a marketing budget set aside quite yet, time is all we have, right? We're probably not as busy as we want to be, so we can take that time, spend it on perfecting our posts and, figuring out how often and putting together a whole social media strategy. And hopefully, if things are moving the right way, we can then say, okay, now I have income coming in because all of these things are working and people are getting to my website and they're making purchases and I'm doing all these other things. And then you can maybe take some monies and either hire someone full-time to be your marketing person, Or you can work with somebody who's, somebody like me who is a contractor who's not an employee that can help you with all of the things, right? So just remember, it's not going to be free for you, even though it doesn't necessarily cost you out of pocket. It will cost you out of your time per day. Social media is not a flash in the pan. I promise you, it is not going anywhere. It's going to change. It'll probably change before we get off of this webinar, but it will never go away. There's no way. So, I will tell you, I used to work at a chamber of commerce. It was probably, I would say 10, 15 years ago. I still had people that thought that email was a flash in the pan. Just like email, I promise you, social media is here to stay. So don't feel like, I don't know about you guys, but it was like, okay, I went through, buying video on VHS and then we went to DVD and now I just live stream. I feel like I keep learning these things and they just keep going away. This, I promise you, social media is not going to go away. So don't feel like you're investing time in something and learning and, learning how to do all of the functions and then it's going to go away. What I will tell you is it will change. So those functions that you learn will morph into something else. There will be different platforms, things like that, but it's not going anywhere. Social media is not a replacement for your sales team. No one and nothing can replace real life people talking with others about your products and services, right? What it is it's a tool in your toolbox that can help your sales team for sure, right? Like it or no, social media is a legitimizing tool. I will tell you that, many people, as soon as they hear about a referral, even if it's a word of mouth referral, will hop on social media to find out, is this a viable business? They're either doing a Google search, they're looking you up on Facebook, whatever the case may be. But social media doesn't replace your sales team, even if your sales team is you. Just another tool for you to use to get people to that ultimate buying decision, right? It's a beautiful thing. And though this one hurts my heart to say every time, social media is not your entire marketing strategy. Can marketing be done absolutely free? Yes, if we don't, take credit for our time, it can be. Is it usually? No. They say that when you start a business for the first 5 years, your marketing budget should be 10% of your revenue. After that, it can go down to 3%. These numbers may be a little bit skewed because things do change over time, but I promise you they're close. So you can't we don't have the ability to say anymore, well, I don't have a budget. You're going to have to figure one out. It's just part of being a business owner, right? We have to come up with a budget. But that's okay. If you've got social media, maybe you join, your local chamber of commerce, depending on what your product is, that may totally make sense. You may join a trade organization where you're, networking with people who are in your same business vertical. Maybe you run something in your church bulletin. Maybe you send out a newsletter. There are all these things and all these plates that we need to keep spinning as business owners. And social media, unfortunately, is just one of them. So here's what social media isn't. So we can start jumping into the particulars of your Google business profile. So this presentation is specific just to that Google business profile. The little thing that when you do a search, and I promise you, 92% of the people in the room use Google for their search. Some people are using the DuckDuckGo. Some people are still hanging on to Bing. But as you'll see later, and it's one of the stats that I share, Google has 92% market share on search. And I will tell you, I don't know about you guys, but I would love to have 92% market share of any I'm in. So when you're doing that search, your Google business profile is that little box that pops up on the right when somebody searches and finds you. So it's just that particular piece that we're talking about today. Laura, I saw something pop up. Are we still good?
Oh, just a question about speakers. When you are letting different groups know about the service you offer them, what is the appropriate amount of time to present your value? Value add to them without spamming them. Sorry.
I'm not sure.
When you're
I mean,
letting,
I do speaking engagement.
No, 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 no. This is for Google. When you're letting different groups know about the service you offer them, what is the appropriate amount of time to present your value add to them without spamming them?
Uh, I don't know that that
Wait,
question is, does that sound like it's specific to social media posts? Maybe I'm not.
we'll wait for them to clarify.
Okay. All right. So we're going to
Oh,
move on to the, oh, go ahead.
I guess they're saying in Facebook groups, but they're asking about Facebook groups.
Okay, if you like, and you guys will get my contact info at the end. I'm only going to address stuff on Google today, only because that's why the attendees are here. But please feel free, and you'll get my info at the end. And like Laura shared, you'll get a copy of the presentation, which also has my contact info. If you have specific questions about social that are not Google focused, please feel free to send them to me, and I'll do my best to answer. Okay, I just don't want to take away from the group who's here to hear about Google, but I am happy to answer. So please, please just shoot me a quick email and I will answer any questions that you have off the topic of Google. So this is what I like to call the non-sexy portion of the show, just stats that you need to know about your Google business profile and why you should make sure that you're spending time and effort making sure that it's as optimized as it possibly can be, right? The average Google business is found on, or excuse me, the average business is found on Google in 1,009 searches per month. That is wonderful numbers, right? 84% of these coming from discovery searches, meaning salon near me, where they're not actually typing in your name or URL. They're just looking for a new business. 84% of those are potential clients that do not know your name already. So is this somewhere that you want to have a presence? Absolutely. 16% of businesses receive more than 100 calls each month from their Google business profile. Now, I'm going to be completely transparent. I don't get that number of calls, and I'm sure that these are for, larger companies that probably do spend, but I will promise you, even if it's a half of that, I'll take 50 calls per month from my Google business profile. I love it. Profiles with photos are twice as likely to be considered reputable and get 35% more clicks. Yeah, it makes sense to take some time and put some photos on there because, again, this is a legitimizing tool, right? People are looking to make sure you're a real live company, right? Not some creation, not some iteration of something. They want to make sure they're working with real live folks. Google reviews receive more views than any other site. 63% of consumers read the content that people leave in Google reviews before they make a buying selection. So yes, should we be asking for reviews? Absolutely. More than 36% of consumers agree Google reviews are the most important factor when they choose a business. Most important. 36% may not sound like a lot, but look at the numbers we've already talked about. If you are coming up at over 1,000 searches per month and 36% of those people are relying on those Google reviews to make a buy, it only makes sense that we take time to be asking our very satisfied clients if they will just take a few minutes and write us a Google review. And here it is, 92% of search volume globally is run through Google. So this is the place, and people don't like to hear this, but I'm your friend and I'm going to tell you. Your Google business profile can prove more important than your website. And no one wants to hear that because of all the time and effort that we put in to our websites. This is a step that you don't want to skip. And by the way, it's very easily managed, right? And especially if you have already gone through and optimized it to its fullest, from there on in, it's just tweaks and adding new things or services or products that you have. So once you do this, it's done until you have an update. But I always tell people there's always room to make changes. So that's what we're here to talk about today. How do we optimize that profile? Quick look at a Google business profile from the user's perspective, meaning if I go out and I Google Glitter Girl Media, which is my company, this is what the average person sees and all of the components of that, right? So I implore you, I have seen this, which is why I mention it, make sure your business name is spelled correctly. You will then see their number of Google reviews. Make sure your address is correct. Now, here is something that if you have not yet created a Google business profile, you need to know. Google only wants people who have brick and mortar locations to have a Google business profile. I will be honest with you and tell you I have no idea why that is, other than on some level, they find those businesses more legitimate than those who don't. Now, I will tell you also, for the year and a half that I had my business, my home was my business address because that's where my office was, right? It was during COVID. Nobody was going anywhere anyway. I started in 2019 and then boom, the big C word, right? But as soon as I got my brick and mortar, I changed my address to my office because if you look to the right there, you will see there is a picture of our office building right in my profile. For a year and a half, it was a picture of my house. Now, I never had any crazies show up. There was never anything nefarious going on, but I would have to think that most people would not like their home address on if they can help it. You cannot use a PO box for this. Here's the next thing I will tell you. If you don't have a brick and mortar that people walk into, you can choose not to show your address. Here's the caveat to that. It may not show on your Google business profile. And I'll be honest and tell you, I don't know how this happens. Sometimes, even when you have it hidden, it is picked up and that address shows on the zillion other search engines that are out there. I have no idea how it gets out, but I always like to tell people, just because you have it hidden on Google doesn't mean it's hidden. So just a heads up there. I want to be as transparent as I can. I personally have not experienced that, but I know that others have. So just sharing the opportunity for you to broaden your horizons and know that even if you hide it, it can be there. Your hours. I cannot tell you how important this particular piece is. And we have a whole section on it coming up. Then there's your question and answers. Here's what I will tell you about any questions that you have that come in. And it's going to be the same as for any Google reviews that come in. If you get a question that comes in, and I will tell you, Google is very good about being proactive and letting you know someone has asked a question. They actually email you to let you know. Make sure that you answer it, okay? If you do not answer a question, somebody from the general public can answer the question for you. They think that they're being helpful, but how many of you have a business that nobody else knows, the answers to the questions that you would know? So just be careful. The general public can actually answer questions on Google business profiles. So as soon as I get that question, I go in and I answer it, even if it's, I'm sorry, this, question doesn't apply to our business, because there is a lot of trolling out there. But just a heads up, you should be able to answer that. I think we saw a couple of things come in, Laura. Are we still good?
We do have a couple of things. So
Okay.
someone said, I use my PO box and Google shows the post office location.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a possibility. Because
Then
it actually
says,
tells you when you create your profile not to use a PO box.
I have a service-based business that travels to my customers. I've not had an issue with registering my business with Google, and my address seems to remain hidden.
Okay, so you've made this choice. That's good. Again, on Google it will, but who knows about those other various and sundry? And by the way, it may never happen, but even if there's a shred of a possibility, I wanted to let you guys know that. And I've had other people let me know that their address shows up on, I'm not going to say Yelp, but something else, even though they have it hidden on Google. It has been picked up from there. So just a heads up. It's not going to happen every time, and that's a beautiful thing. And as a service business, many people hide their address, and it's totally acceptable. You just use a service area, and we'll talk about that too.
Let's see. Should we still do a profile if we don't plan to do a brick and mortar?
So my answer is, with 92% market share on search, there is never a time I'm going to tell somebody, no, you should not have a profile. And I realize it kind of goes against their standards, but I'll be honest with you and say, I don't know why any business who doesn't have a brick and mortar should be considered less than another business, or that it should be inappropriate to have a search listing. So while I may be bucking the system a little bit, sometimes the system is broken. And I wouldn't want to see a quality business overlooked simply because they don't have a brick and mortar, right? I don't think that's in this day and age, that's not even a fair, requirement. So that's my 2 cents on that one. Okay, Laura, all good?
Uh,
Oh,
One more. I have several
okay.
Google profiles created for the same company. It wasn't my intention to create more than one. What can I do to fix that?
There's
She's also
actually,
moved, she said.
okay, that happens a lot, right? Because now you've put in your new address or somebody has lost you know, the access to one of the earlier ones. First of all, you can be completely shut down if you have more than one profile for more than one business. That usually only happens if each of them show the same address though, right? Because then they're like, oh, this is a mistake. We're going to shut everything down until somebody can prove this is a real entity. There are measures you can take, and I implore you to listen to my next statement. It is extremely difficult to get in touch with Google. It is almost impossible. And when you do, sometimes they simply don't address your concerns. I will just tell you that up front. The other thing I will tell you is the price is right. So we have to play the game the way they want us to play the game, right? We have to go by their rules, but there are options for you to merge accounts. You do have to have control of both um, Google business profiles, meaning you have to have the login and password for each to do that. So just be aware of that. They are going to do that to either eliminate one or to combine the two. And I would say generally they eliminate one. And if you just tell them, you can explain, hey, I have multiple accounts. This is the one I want to keep. This is the one I want to get rid of. They most times, if they answer you, will fix the problem. But again, you have to have access to both profiles.
Okay, Heather, I started my Google business page a bit ago and they locked my account and won't let me update any of the profiles without paying $300.
That is not even a Google thing. So I don't know what you're referring to. I would say screenshot something and email it to me. There is zero fee associated with a Google business profile. There are not fines that they can impress. There is no fee to have one. So I just want to make sure it's a legitimate thing. But again, there is no money spent. The only time that you're spending on Google is generally Google ads. And this is completely independent of that.
All right, last one before we move on. Does shared or virtual business office like Regis, et cetera, do those qualify as a brick and mortar office for Google?
They do. And I will tell you, if you're in like a co-working space or something like that, but it's your brick and mortar, the answer is yes, but make sure that there is some suite number associated with your particular profile so that they don't see duplicate addresses and flag the accounts, right? If I'm Glitter Girl and there's, I'm in a shared office, right? There are several of us that are in this building. We all put our suite numbers so that we can delineate between the two, right? So just make sure you put something that's qualifying that sets you apart from just a regular, if it's, ABC co-working space and their address is 123 South Main, you want to be whatever your business is, 123 South Main Suite A. And by the way, you can totally make that up. See, many people do it so that they don't get flagged.
Hmm.
Okay, all
right,
set?
go. Yep.
All right, perfect. Okay, then there is, you can see reviews from other platforms on here, which is kind of interesting. Here is if you're on somebody's page and you want to write them a review, this is the button that shows you how to do that. And if you want to add a photo, and by the way, these are as the end user, right? This is not as the business owner. This is just a user on Google. We're going to show you the back end of your profile here in a minute. So this is just from, I'm doing a search on Google. This is what I came across. Okay, there's an about section. I believe, don't hold me this, I think it's 750 characters and spaces. So guess how many characters and spaces you should use? Whatever the maximum allowed is, right? So you want to pack all of those search terms and keywords and anything that will let people know why they should use your business in this section. Make sure it's well written. make sure that it has, again, the key terms and search terms that are associated with your particular business vertical, right? So make sure that you complete that in its entirety. I see so many people that have one sentence. How does that A, help you from an SEO perspective? And B, how does that help someone decide you're the person, right? You're the business they want to use. You want to give them as much information as you can to make those important buying decisions. And you can see here, these are actual posts. Most people do not know you can post on your Google business profile just like you post on Facebook, on LinkedIn, any of those other platforms. And you should be. And I'll tell you why. Google will reward those businesses who use their platform the way they have it designed, so that they see someone who's in there and actively updating their account, making sure that their hours are good, putting content in and adding updates or specials or events. They're like, wow, they're really using our platform the way they should. Let's move them up in the rankings. Moving up in the rankings on Google is what it's all about. So we want to play the game the way they want to play the game. Okay. You can also, and this is a new function as of this year, you can add your profiles, your social media profiles to your Google business profile. Used to be's aren't what they used to be. You used to have to count on Google to go out and do a search, find your profiles, and add them to your Google business profile, which I always thought was the zaniest thing in the whole world. You let me type my website URL in here. Why could I not type my social media URLs in and make sure that they're saved there? This started, I promise you, probably, I want to say January or February. And now you can actually enter those so that people can find your socials. It's a great tool, right? And then here's the one we don't necessarily love, right? Because even on your Google business profile, your competitors are listed there. So even on a search, and they have found you specifically, they're also showing people other options. That's why it's imperative that we get them to your website, right? Here's where the added photos are, right? So here are all the photos that are associated with your profile. If somebody clicks on these are the photos that were specifically added by the owner. You can actually add video to your profile. Now you have to watch. Generally, I tell people 29 seconds or less. You are not housing super long video on here because they just won't allow it, right? That's what you have YouTube for. This is a quick hit. You can see most of these, all of them are under a minute. Most of them here are under 29 seconds so that Google likes them and will help increase my ranking. And I promise you, this is a legitimate thing. I used to think that this was a huge waste of time, but starting in 2019, when I started my business, there's actually a website called 3bestrated.com. I have been one of the top 3 ad agencies in Akron, Ohio, because of my Google business profile, because it is filled out the way it should be in its entirety, and things like that. So just so you know, it really does make a difference. And there are entities out there that are watching to make sure you do what you're supposed to do correctly. As a benefit of that, they put me on their website. I get to put up video absolutely free. They charge not a dime. They just are out there rewarding people who have optimized their profiles to the best of their ability. And I just love that. Now, this is the product section. Sometimes, and this is funny from a Google perspective, depending on what kind of business you are, it will give you the capability of adding products or adding services or adding both. And sometimes it lets you do neither. And there's nothing we can do as business owners and users to affect that decision. It's whatever they choose. I am lucky enough to be in a business vertical where they allow me to add products and services. I like products, even though most people would argue, well, what you offer is services. Well, it is, yes, but any service can be a product, right? It's a product of your business. So the reason I dig products on Google is because I can put a picture with them. For services, you're not allowed to upload a photo. So I love this, okay? So you will select the category that you put your service listings under. You make your graphic and post it there. You can actually put a title with it and pricing if you wish. It's fabulous. And all of this is free, right? I'm going to buzz through these really quickly because we have lots to talk about. And these are just some more factoids about your Google business profile. And Laura is going to be kind enough to send all of these to you. But I will tell you, I want you to just look at that last one. Businesses with Google business profiles are 94% more likely to be viewed as reputable. There is nothing more important in this world than to have someone who is not familiar with your business see you as a reputable company. And this is an easy, inexpensive way to do that. So I implore you, if you have not set up your profile yet, there's your homework for this week, okay? Now, showcasing your company's listing on Google. This is where we get into the back end of, okay, now I'm putting on my business owner hat, and this is what it looks like from this perspective. So how do I build revenue with my Google business profile? Because that's what it's all about, right? It's not about being seen in a great light or building that reputation. End of the day, we want it to convert and add to our revenue, right? Complete your profile in its entirety. Every single section that is available to you should be filled out. So what that means is if you are one of those lucky few, or I won't even say few, it's probably the most of us, that have products and services available to you, you need to fill up products and services, right? Every place that you can put some kind of verbiage is just another opportunity for an at bat when people are doing a search for you. Make sure it's strategically infused with all the keywords and search terms that will help you get found, but make sure you are complete. Keep your info up to date. This is a sticky wicket with me. If you're going to take the time and have a Google business profile, make sure it is filled out correctly. Content changes. Maybe you don't offer a particular service anymore. Maybe you've added a service, but you haven't added it to your profile. Well, guess what? It's not a service are going to stumble across you for then, right? So make sure that everything is updated. Post valuable content. That means write a good about section about yourself. If you can't write it because you're too close to it, and sometimes that's hard, right? Try and write a bio on yourself. It's horrifying because you have to try and think like somebody else. If you have difficulty with this, ask a client to help you. Ask a fellow small business help you write that because it can be difficult. But the posts that you're putting on Google should be great content, right? Showcase what kind of a business you are. Let them know what your vibe is as a company. You never know what is going to reverberate with a potential client, right? So just make sure you're being a resource for those who could use your product or service. And then this is one that I implore on any platform. Set aside time to work on these things. It is not going to happen on accident. We are far too busy as business professionals to go, oh, I'm just going to post something here and there and I'll remember to do it. I promise you, you're going to have 52 fires that need put out on the very day you were going to put out content. So this is something you need to block out time for in your work schedule. And that doesn't mean block out time and then go, well, you didn't really need to do that. I promise you, you need to do it. It's not a matter of whether or not a business does social media anymore. You're going to do it. It's a matter of how well are you going to do it and is it going to serve you? Because I promise you, if you're putting in 5 minutes a month, it's not going to serve you, right? It's just like anything else. What you put in, you will take out. So make sure that you are prepared and that you have set aside time to work on all of your socials every month. If you are so busy that you don't have that time, you need to take some of that revenue from being so busy and hire someone to manage all of your social. You need to be there. There is not a company that I can make a case for that should not have some kind of presence on some social media platform. Any questions, Laura? Are we good?
Couple questions.
Okay.
This is from one of your previous slides. Where do we
Okay.
fill out the business description and keywords? I missed where to add that information.
It is under the about section. There is a heading in it. It will say about the business. And I'm going to show it to you too. It's coming up again.
Okay. Can a nonprofit create a Google profile?
Absolutely, and totally should. I have a nonprofit organization, and I promise you, it was the very first thing that I did.
Let's see. How do
I will say I can see where that would have been confusing because we're talking about revenue. Revenue to a nonprofit would be donors and volunteers. So yes, you still have revenue, right? Make sure because that's how that next great volunteer will find you, that next great donor. So yes, you want to have a Google Business Profile presence for sure.
how would you handle the profile address if you would be in Ohio 6 months and out of state 6 months?
Um, it's a great question. I would need to know probably more about the company. So if you will shoot me an email, I'll try and address that for you. Again, you
How
guys
do
will
you,
get my info.
how do you find your Facebook link and to add to the social links?
Go to your Facebook page. If you have um done a vanity URL, you should find a link for that in your back end. If not, go up to the top, copy paste the URL and put it in that slot. That's it sounds crazy, but it actually works. Most times, if you've done a vanity, it's just / in your company name or whatever name you've designated. But most times, if people can't find it and they've not done a vanity URL, if they just go up to the top when they're on their page, copy that link and post it, it should work.
Can you advise a good source of keyword search?
There are lots of um platforms. What I would say is do a Google search on keywords or search terms for, fill in the blank of what kind of business you have, auto dealership, dentist office, whatever that is, and see what you come up with. And by the way, we're never going to cover all of them and you won't have enough room to do it anyway. So look at the percentage of times that that's used. There are, probably more reputable sources than not. I actually have ones that are paid, so I don't like to share those so that people feel like they need to pay. But if you just do a Google search on actual search terms for or keywords for, you can usually find a good nest of those.
Okay. Is there a public URL for my business profile?
Um, well, the answer, yeah, it's a great question. There is because there's a way that you can copy it, but again, I think it's from the back end. You would go in and do a search, but I know that sometimes we have to put that in when we were talking about, merging or getting rid of. You actually have to put the URL in. The answer is yes, but you have to be in the actual profile itself to get it. If you want, shoot me an email and I will let you know where that is. I just have to get in and dig around because it's not one you generally don't have to use that one a lot. So it's one I would just have to look for. And sometimes, by the way, they pull the old switcheroo and you have to figure out where it is. But if you shoot me an email, I will try and find that for you and point you to it.
All right, all caught up.
All right, perfect. So let's talk about completing your profile in its entirety, right? So your about section, this is not the place to be doing any kind of all caps. Do not put a sales pitch in there offering a discount. And in this particular instance, you do not put a URL in there. That's a no-no on your Google About section because your company website URL has another slot, right? So you don't even need to take up those valuable characters because this is prime real estate, right? This is your opportunity to introduce your business to the world. You're not going to put the website in there because you're going to put the website somewhere else. Products, make sure we talked about that. If you got several, some people have hundreds of products. Pick a nice cross section, and we're going to show you that there's a link back to your website. We love backlinks. We want to get them to your website. So you don't need to list every product. If you have 1,000, I implore you don't put them all up. That's crazy. But a nice smattering of them would be great. Services, same deal. These you can have, 5, you can have 25, but we're not just going to, a lot of people just list the service name. That's great if somebody's searching for that exact term. That's probably not going to happen, right? So we're going to fill those out and we're going to put in the 300 characters and spaces that is allowed for each service. So just a heads up, there's going to be a little work like I talked about. When I optimize profiles for people, I let them know I'm going to be in here for a good 10 hours to make sure that everything is firing on all cylinders, that we have everything optimized, that we've used all the search terms and keywords, that we've got nice photos for all of the products and all that kind of thing. So when I work with a client, it takes some time. Be ready to set some time aside. You're not going to get this accomplished in a half an hour, right? You're going to need to set aside hours. I do this all the time. I have optimized more than 200 profiles, and it takes me 10 hours to do one. I know exactly what I'm doing and where I'm going, and it takes me that long. So just be sure you have, your expectations set correctly. This isn't a quick fix, but at the end of the day, it's what's going to help you convert strangers to hopefully new clients. And it's worth taking the time. Keep your info up to date. Service area. And we talked about this for service businesses. Depending on your product or service, you can choose to do a service area as opposed to just listing an address. It's awesome. You can list everyone. Everyone can list up to 20 different service areas to help your prospects find you. So guess how many you should use? 20. If you work locally, if you are like a retail establishment with a brick and mortar, it's very easy. You just pick the 20 cities that are around your radius and, kind of go from there. You can put them in different areas. I would caution you about doing that because it is a red flag for Google. If you are in Ohio and you're listing places in Minnesota, which is why I wanted to see the information on the person who's here that, moves from time to time. I don't want anybody to get flagged for, yeah, well, you say you're here, but you're putting over here as your area. So we would have to talk about that. Your hours. This is exhausting. And I know better, but how many of us have gone to a business and it says that they're open on their Google business profile and then they're not? I promise you that is a very easy fix for any business. You can go in and update those hours whenever you want. So when I see that happen, first of all, I always message them and say, if you're going to have a profile, please keep it up to date. Now, I will say, I realize it's on me as a consumer to go out and actually click one more time and get to their website and check there. Most people will update their hours on their website. I promise you, not all of them do that on their Google business profile. And so I've been burned several times, and I will tell you, COVID was the worst for that because how many restaurants were, we're going to shut down this day and this day, and it never made it to their Google business profile. You realize lots of people stop there. There's so much information on your Google business profile. They've got your address. They've got your website. Doesn't mean they click through. If they see enough that they're interested, they may only use the information that is on that particular piece just in your profile. So be aware, everything you have there needs to be updated. Holiday hours. You can list these ahead of time. If you are a retail establishment and you know you are going to be closed on Thanksgiving, fill in the date, you can fill those out one time for the entire year, right? And just everybody will already know you're closed. Now, most people probably realize that you're going to be closed on Christmas, whether you celebrate it or not, because who's coming, right? The vast majority of the country is celebrating, but you can do this all ahead of time. You don't have to wait until a week before the event to do that. You can do that all at one time for the whole year. Any questions before we move on?
We do. Same question for hours, digital product only. Should we list hours?
Yes. And I will tell you, well, so that can be a confusing thing, right? I have hours, but I don't, this is going to sound silly. I don't necessarily just work within those hours, but it lets people know this is an acceptable time to contact me, right? Doesn't mean that they stick to it, but it's a guideline. I will tell you, I have people, the ones that struggle are someone like a healthcare, like an assisted living facility. Well, we have people who answer the phones for the general public, from 8 to 5, but naturally people live here. We're open 24/7. So what do we put? So if they're an assisted living facility, they know you're there 24/7. But if you put 8 to 5, they're going to assume those are your office hours. So it can be a sticky wicket. You just have to kind of figure it out and see what happens. But with a company, and if it's obvious you're a digital company, you can still list hours. It's fine.
Oh, let's see. I provide service in all of Indiana and Kentucky. If I show service area for both states, will that cause a flag?
It can, yes. And I will tell you, but I will tell you, service area can be United States. It can be Northeast Ohio. So it doesn't have to be a city proper. It can be Ohio. It can be, but just be aware, you have to be able to back up. Like I can't just say, oh, I do all of my work in Aruba because that's where I want to be, right? It has to be legit. So if you can legitimize that, like insurance agents can be licensed in multiple states, right? They can work in several areas. If you can legitimize that, and especially if your website reflects it, it shouldn't be a big deal. Sometimes they will tell you they will go ahead and pull a location and there's nothing you can do about it. It's crazy to me that they're taking that kind of time, but just a heads up, it can happen.
Uh, where in the profile do you change the service area?
I'll show you. We're going to get there.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
All good? All
Yeah.
right. So posting valuable content. You want to establish yourself as the person who does what you do, right? We want people to choose us for their service. This is the time that it is very prevalent that we create and share quality posts so that people understand that you know what you're talking about, right? Post consistently. Don't post an update once, this month and once in 3 months. That doesn't help your case. Mostly because all of the content that you post on your Google Business Profile as an update is archived as old after 1 week. So if you're posting only once per week, that's fine, but make sure you're posting at least once per week so that your profile looks up to date, right? We want Google to see us as active. The way to look active is to post a minimum of once per week to your actual profile. Post professionally. This isn't the place for memes unless it's work specific. Sometimes that's cute. But this isn't the time to have people figure out what kind of potato they are, right? Those are Facebook things. Google is professional, and the types of things you would post on here are the types of things you would post on LinkedIn. These are professional posts. So just make sure you're keeping to business on your profile. Set aside time to work on your profile, right? I know time is probably our, the commodity that we have least, especially as business owners, because we're wearing lots of hats. Create an appointment in your calendar for the time you'll spend working on your profile. It's imperative. If you don't, it won't happen, right? Write down your goals for the week. Hey, I want to add some more photos this week. I want to post, an upcoming event on there. Write it down so that you know when you sit down, if you've blocked out an hour, that you use that hour wisely, right? You make sure that you've packed everything you need to get done for that week into that hour. Have your KPIs, your key performance indicators in mind before you get started. What are you looking for? Is it strictly new clients? Or whatever the case may be. Your key performance indicator could be, hey, I got 10 new pictures up on my profile. That's great. Even if it's just that, make sure you're doing something in the time that you have allotted to work on your profile. Find an accountability partner. This is how we stay on track, right? Especially when you're a solopreneur and you don't have a team that's there to help keep you in check. Find another small business owner who's interested in boosting their presence on Google and make sure you hold each other. It's an easy thing to do, doesn't cost you a thing but a little bit of time, and shoot a text to somebody and say, hey, how's it going? Did you update anything? Very simple. And that way you're helping one another. Any other questions before we move on to the profile, Laura?
Let's see. I currently have a radius area set, but would you recommend picking specific areas or cities, or should I keep a general radius? Also, is it possible to remove high crime danger areas?
If you're doing a radius, no. And the only way that you would need to remove one would be, not typing it in proper. So if the radius is working for you, don't monkey with it. This is kind of more for people that don't have anything set, but if yours is working for you, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Okay, I think you answered this before. There's a website called Regis where you purchase virtual address for monthly fee. Can I use that address?
That I don't know the answer to because I'm not familiar with that service. But just be careful. I don't know what it looks like to buy an address. So just be careful. Let's say do your research. You maybe even if it's a website, they should have somebody that can answer questions. I would ask
Mm.
them about that specifically.
Okay.
All good? All right. So now
Yep.
we're going to get into the Google business profile very quickly. For the folks that were asking where certain things are, you want to make sure that circle is in the green, which says looks good. If it's in the yellow or in red, it means you do not have a good profile strength because you haven't filled out everything. Make sure you fill out everything. Here's where you edit your profile. Um, in your profile, we're going to get into that, but I believe this is the button where we update the services. You can go in and read your reviews, add photos, look at your performance for the month, edit your products and services, add an update. We talked about that. And then this is the link to ask for reviews. Definitely want to ask for reviews so you can boost those Google reviews and boost your ranking. Here's the about your business section. There's a more button that doesn't, if it's not under one of these headings, it's probably under the more, right? So your business name, spell it correctly. You do have to pick a business category from what they offer. You cannot invent one, so just make sure you pick one. Here's the description that you've had. And always put your opening date because one of the ranking flags, believe it or not, is length of time in business, which makes sense, right? The longer you're in business, it means you're a more legitimate business, right? That's just the way that it works. Your contact info, make sure the number's correct, make sure the website's correct. Yes, under location and areas, here is your business address, and then all of your service areas are there at the bottom. Those are the ones that you actually get to select. So it is under the location section of the edit profile. So there was the answer for that one. Here are your hours. The main ones are up top. The holiday hours are listed at the bottom. Again, you can do all of those ahead of time. More from the business. Here are where you have options like women owned, veteran owned, black owned. Sometimes, and this is silly to me, but I personally think that the from the business identifies as should be the same for every business, but they're not. I cannot designate myself, believe it or not, in my business as a Latino owner, but some people can. I'm like, well, what kind of a business can a Latino not own? I don't know why this is different for everyone. And I actually spoke with someone at Google and they couldn't answer that. So here we are playing the game the way they want to play it. Accessibility asks things about like wheelchair, restrooms, wheelchair ability on levels. Amenities would be, do you have, gender-free bathrooms, something like that. Crowd is where you can designate yourself sometimes, because sometimes you have the option and sometimes you don't, as an LGBTQ plus friendly or a trans safe space. Believe it or not, in my business vertical, I am not given that option, which I think is wrong. If I want to designate myself as, LGBTQ plus friendly, I should be able to as a business, right? I think everyone availability. But again, I don't run Google. And until I do, we're just going to have to play the game their way. Planning can be, do you have to have an appointment ahead of time? Things like that. And then your service options. Mine, I do offer on-site services. I do offer online appointments. So you can designate those things there. Here's where your update section is. These are the actual posts, right? So this will show you the recent updates. It will show you when it was posted, and it will show you the graphic that was uploaded and all of the content. On these, you can do a URL, which is the link. So that was my link to register for that particular training. If you want to add an update, it is just like a regular post. That would be just a regular post, right? An offer is just what it sounds like. Almost like a coupon or a buy one, get one, or some kind of special would be your offer. And then the event is self-explanatory, right? You're going to hold an event, you can put it on here. Here's where you look at your performance. We'll tell you what the time period is. It will show you how many interactions you've had, and it will break it down by month and let you know how many interactions you've had per month. So check this out. Keep an eye on performance, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Here is your Google reviews. It will show you how many you've got. Your latest one should come up on top if you're like here is click newest, so this will be the one at the top, and it shows what they've written, and then you always want to respond, whether it is a good review or you get a poor review, because sometimes we get poor reviews, right? You always respond to them, because it's the right thing to do, right? They've taken the, especially if they've given you a good one, to thank them, But if it's a problem, here's your opportunity to address it. The beautiful part is if you get a wackadoo, and sometimes they're out there, right, that have left you a review or they've left it for the wrong business, this is where you can set the record straight. They cannot respond after you respond. They can go back and change the original post though. So just a heads up there. But it's never going to be a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth because there just isn't that availability. It's they get to leave one, you get to leave one. And then up at the top, it says get more reviews. If you click on that link or that button, it will take you to a link that you can copy paste into an email or make a QR code with to ask for reviews from your clients. This is an invaluable tool. Make sure that you get that link. Here's all the photos that have been uploaded. We showed this earlier, but from the user perspective, it's pretty much the same here. Here's the ones by the owner. And here are your options. You're just going to post a regular photo, going to upload your logo or a cover photo. Cover photos are more horizontal oriented, where logos are more squared off. So just make sure everything you upload is very good looking. Through all those. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I get you guys out on time. Here's where the products are again. Here's where you add a product. This is a listing of all your products, and then it breaks them down by category. And then this is what your product listing looks like. Here's how you actually put one in. You have the name of the product, pick a category. Those you can create. So you don't have to choose from a list there. Those you actually have the availability to create the category. Your price, description, look, 1,000 characters and spaces. How many should we be using? As many as possible. Sometimes you don't have 1,000 characters and spaces to write about a particular product, but make sure it's enough that someone can make a buying decision. Super important. Put the link to the page where that product is on your website, and it will backlink right to your website. And then you're going to put a photo here. I'm going to talk about a tool real quick that will help you make those photos if you don't have one and size them correctly, but they need to be horizontally oriented. I want to say the size is kind of like a business card, so like a 3x2 maybe will fit, but just a heads up there. And then at the bottom, make sure you publish because that's what makes it go live. Here are your services. Again, under this one, I believe the categories you choose, but you can choose the headings for all of the listings, right? And then you've got your 300 characters and spaces here. You can see I've got great search terms in here that help me get found. And then we're going to get to the ranking. How does your Google Business Profile determine your ranking? Relevance. How close is your particular business to the search term that they put in? They're going to try and, Google will try and show them the most relevant searches for whatever they have looked for. Distance, just what it sounds like, right? What's closest? Those near me searches didn't exist 5 years ago, but there's a reason that they do now. So if a user doesn't specify a location in their search, Google's still going to calculate it from where they are if it can be found out. So just a heads up. And then prominence. If you are a tourist attraction, you get a lot of business traction. I'm here in Ohio, and I promise you, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is prominent listing. The Football Hall of Fame is a relevant listing. I will tell you, we as small businesses usually aren't, but if you are a famous museum, landmark, something like that, you will have more prominence. When's the best time to post on your profile? Here it is, the big secret. The day and time doesn't matter on Google. Sometimes it will on other platforms. Google is an anomaly in that area. Just know that every post is archived after 7 days. That means how often is far more important than when you post on this platform. Okay. How often should you post?
Heather.
Hello?
Hey,
Can
can you
you
hear
guys?
us?
I
You
can
cut
hear
out.
you.
Okay.
Oh,
You cut out.
am I back?
You are.
Okay, I saw it just as you said you cut out. It said your internet is unstable. I'm like, okay. So sorry about that, you guys. That was an internet thing, it looked like. So again, shoot for at least 1 to 2 posts weekly on your profile. Go for quality versus quantity. It's more important that they are good posts as opposed to just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. And keep an eye on your results. that performance button. Make sure that the stuff that you're posting is actually getting you the results you would like. Okay, how do I get it all done? Schedule ahead of time. Here are some platforms you can use for that. Make sure going in that, and I don't check these because these aren't the ones I use, I'll be honest with you, but I have to manage like 200 to 300 profiles at once. So mine's a different tool. Make sure that they will post to Google. Most of them will now. There was a time where they didn't. They're actually even starting to recognize that this is a big deal. Canva. There is not a $119 per year that I enjoy spending more than having my Canva Pro account. So you can use it for free. If you want all of the bells and whistles, it's $119 per year. Guys, I don't get a kickback from Canva, but I would get the Canva tattoo if they were giving them out because I love, love, love it. For less than, what is it, $12 per month, I get all of the templates and pictures and all the fun stuff there. By the way, for the person who asked earlier about a non-for-profit, Canva is absolutely free for not-for-profits. You have to fill out one form and you will get Pro for free. So just a heads up there. And all kinds of templates. That's the end of my presentation. I will answer questions, but I do have a free resource. If you would like a copy of Improve Your Local Google Ranking, your local ranking on Google, just send me an email with the subject, my Google ranking. I'm happy to send. And my contact information is here at the bottom. Again, if you had anything specific you wanted to ask, and maybe you didn't want to ask, in the program, or what's more likely going to happen is you're going to think of a question in like half an hour when we're off the call, please feel free to shoot me an email. Email is definitely the easiest way to get me because I can answer it anywhere. Or you can always text if it's something I can answer pretty quickly, but I implore you, any questions, I am happy to answer. Okay.
Okay, this question. I own a decorative concrete business. At times, I may do 2 or more projects a month. The number of projects varies from month to month. Is it better to post photos regularly? Would you suggest 1 or 2 photos at a time? In the past, I would have posted a bunch of each project.
You can do multiple. It's fine. There's no limit. Just know people are only going to scroll so far. So if you have a project, do 10 photos of it, but just a representation, just from an end user's perspective, right? The more we can vary it and show different things, the better. So just a heads up there. Think about what it looks like from the user's perspective. What do you want them to see?
Here's a question. They came in late to where is the login to the profile? I don't know
So
if you
here's
can
the
go back in
deal.
your slides.
This is funny. So you have to set up your account with in Google. You actually have to set up a profile. Once you are, and you stay logged in, right? That little circle up in the corner when you're, surfing around, it shows you what account you're signed into. So long as you are signed in to the account with which you created your profile, if you Google yourself, there is no login. You are already flagged as the owner of that page, so there is no login. You just have to be logged into the account with which you created your Google Business profile. I know that's a long way around that answer, and it sounds goofy because there is no login. It's like Facebook, right? There is no login for your Facebook page. You're an admin as soon as you go on the page. It's the same thing with Google.
And the next question is along those, where is the home page for says, where do you get to the home page? I've always gone to maps, then business, and it does not look like your screen did.
So yes, you can go. What I do is I don't go to like a login screen. There's no like home screen. I just Google myself. I don't go to maps. I just Google myself. That's what you see that's the perspective you see it from on my page.
For service-oriented businesses, do you recommend a headshot for a photo or no personal photos?
I could make a case either way. Generally, as a business, I mean, I have, I think, 1 headshot in all of mine, but it's with my staff. So I think staff photos are fine, but as a business, I want to put up business photos more than I want personal. I see like LinkedIn profiles as more where we put our headshot, but you want to show people. I mean, if you're a people-oriented business and people are going to be going to their home or something of the kind, I would include people, but I wouldn't necessarily do headshot after headshot. I would make sure it includes, more service photos than headshots.
Is there anywhere we can find the dimensions for any of the visuals that we upload?
So the answer is yes, there should be, templates for those in Canva. And I was trying to think if I have something. Do me a favor, if you get a chance, email me. I may have a list of them. I'm not going to promise that I do, but if I can probably throw one together pretty quick. I need to just do one with every size for everything, but it sounds a whole lot easier than it is, but I'm happy to help if I can. So just shoot me a quick email.
All right, we have 2 raised hands. So Paul, been waiting patiently. So Paul, go ahead and speak. Paul? All right, I'll ask Jade. Jade, you can talk, please.
Just make sure to take yourself off mute.
All right, let's try. Alexis has a question. Go ahead, Alexis.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I absolutely know, I didn't know anything about the Google Business Profile, and I have a nonprofit. But
Mhm.
how do you create one? Where do you go to start?
You know what? I have that link. If you want to shoot me an email, Alexis, I'm happy to. There's a link that you go to you can Google it too, but I've got it somewhere. So if you want to shoot me an email, I'll send it over to you.
Okay,
Anybody else who wants that link, send me an email and I'm happy to send.
Okay,
Again, it's easy to Google, build my Google business profile, but I've got the link. So then you wouldn't even have to fuss with it.
okay, thank you.
Of course.
all right. Question, can I list products as groups to begin with or as individual items? I sell quilting supplies. I want
So
a
you can do it as
category.
groups. Yeah, you can do it as groups. Like if you have a ton of fat squares, let's say, you can just do a listing for fat squares, or you can do them for every single pattern. It's whatever you prefer. I think for me, I wouldn't necessarily take the time to break it down that far. I would just do groupings because the whole premise is just to get them to the website, right? So put that we have these kinds of things. Here's where you go to go check that out.
All right, let me see. If there's anything else. Did you use a specific email address to be associated with your business? I have a junk Google email, just a business tag with a different Google email address.
It doesn't matter the only person that matters to is you. You have to have access to the account naturally because whatever you set the account up with is where they're going to send notifications that you've gotten a review, that you're going to get notifications about questions. That. So just make sure it's something that you actually check and use. And to anybody but you, it doesn't matter.
All right. I think that's about it. Yes, everybody, there is a recording and you will receive it. Also, you'll get a copy of the presentation in the slides.
Awesome. And you guys, hey, if you have time on August 15th is our next presentation, me with SCORE on creating a social media marketing strategy for your small business, which kind of talks about like the overarching business strategy. So not platform specific, but kind of social media as a whole. That'll be on August 15th, same time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'd love to have you join us.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said earlier, you will get the presentation. You'll also get a video recording of this. And thank you all for joining us so much. Thank you,
Have a great
Heather.
day. Absolutely. Thanks, Laura. I appreciate the help.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.